Hi, I'm Milla and welcome to another Milla's Game Room video. This is part 2 of an ongoing series about DS fan translations. Thank you so much for your support on the previous videos for both the DS and not the DS. Done so many fan translation videos, got a lot more planned. Usual rules apply, all the patch links are in the description, so let's just get straight into this batch. One of SEGA's most underappreciated franchises is 7th Dragon. This is a cult classic RPG series handled by key industry staff, including composer Yuzo Koshiro, director Kazuya Nino, and the late Reiko Kodama, who served as gameplay designer. 7th Dragon has three main elements: an interconnected story, fully customizable characters, and challenging turn-based gameplay. Grinding in the 7th Dragon series differs from your typical RPG, which much of your time is spent defeating dragons to gain DC, which you can use to upgrade your base. The original 7th Dragon is the origin point of this entire franchise, debuting on the Nintendo DS in March 2009. Unlike the more sci-fi oriented sequels that you probably have heard of, 7th Dragon takes place in Eden. Dragons, who are hostile to humanity, rule 80% of Eden, a fictional fantasy kingdom. Unless humans kill all the dragons, humanity is lost. While 7th Dragon's story is standalone, it starts the 7th Dragon series' overall story, which does include elements explored in 7th Dragon 3 on the Nintendo 3DS. If you played that game and were confused by certain conversations, they reference events from the very first 7th Dragon. 7th Dragon's unique premise filled up the more story-driven dungeon RPG niche many publishers often pass up. Moreover, the 7th Dragon game on the DS features gameplay that's still unique to the series. This includes a traditional open-world map with grid-based dungeon exploration. Illustrator Mota worked on 7th Dragon's character designs. Mota is best known outside of Japan for 7 Pirates H with Compound Heart, as well as that Experience Inc. developed dungeon crawler with that obnoxiously long name which I'm not going to repeat here. Mota did not return to illustrate the sequels. SEGA did not localize 7th Dragon. No reason is publicly known, but I'd wager SEGA's differing priorities alongside the game's difficulty factored into their decision to pass on 7th Dragon. Speaking of difficulty, fans criticised 7th Dragon for its really high encounter rate. Therefore, fans released a patch to cut 7th Dragon's encounter rate by 50%, making this version more palatable to genre newcomers. As for the English patch, modder Poketax published a full English translation for 7th Dragon online in April 2014 alongside the game's tools. He also later went on to translate the 7th Dragon 2020 duology on the PSP, by the way, and thanks to him, we can now play all 7th Dragon games in English, not just the most recent 3DS game SEGA localised themselves. Does 7th Dragon stand a chance of localisation in the future? For now, I'd say most likely not. This is because SEGA is focusing on reviving other legacy franchises that are much less obscure, such as Crazy Taxi and Golden Axe. However, Kazuya Nino has stated he'd like to return to the 7th Dragon series someday, including fully remaking this game. I think Nino will eventually be able to bring his wishes to life, but until then, this patch is your only option. Another Japanese exclusive SEGA DS game, or more specifically multi-platform in this case, is Puyo Puyo 7, one of many unlocalized Puyo Puyo titles. Originally released on the DS in July 2009 before later Wii and PSP ports the following November, Puyo Puyo 7's main draw is the all-new Great Transformation mode. Each character can be sized up or down to become chibi or mega-sized. Puyo Puyo 7's story mode focuses on this all-new mode, although there are other modes too, including Fever, Mission, Puyo Puyo 1 Classic, and Puyo Puyo Sui. This game has quite a lot of content considering the core gameplay is so simple. So why did SEGA not localize Puyo Puyo 7? Well, SEGA rarely localized Puyo Puyo games in general, bar a few notable exceptions. So them passing on Puyo Puyo 7 isn't really a surprise. However, Puyo Puyo 7 is a very import-friendly title. You do not need to understand Japanese to play this game. And I say this from experience, from someone who learnt how to play Puyo Puyo with another Puyo Puyo game but also lacks an official release. However, that doesn't devalue fan translations for import-friendly games. In Puyo Puyo 7's case, Puyo Nexus released a full English patch for the DS version in January 2010. This was the last of 3 fan translations they released for the Puyo Puyo series around this time, including the DS version of the previous Puyo Puyo game, Puyo Puyo 50th Anniversary. Thanks to Puyo Nexus, they filled in the localization gaps for puzzle game enthusiasts outside of Japan looking for more wondrous experiences with the Puyo Puyo franchise. Given that many Puyo Puyo games are mechanically quite similar to each other, it's unlikely SEGA will return and localise Puyo Puyo 7. A common criticism of Idea Factory's visual novels are the lack of gameplay. While a handful of titles like the Want of Fortune series do have some gameplay, the vast majority is just pure text. But this isn't for the lack of trying. In 2009, Idea Factory announced Omae Fort. This is a complementary brand to Omae which was designed to broaden out their Omae games from the gameplayless variants you know but may not love. Fun fact, Silicon Era interviewed an Idea Factory representative directly about this brand when it was first revealed. So this was before Omae gained a Western presence. Alongside Omae's initial announcement and this interview is the game I'm discussing today, SaGa Omae o Mamoru, which roughly translates into English as I Will Protect You. This game is a Metroidvania, a genre new to Idea Factory. They marketed this game as a Metroidvania for girls, whatever that is. In this game, you play as Red, an elite knight who explores the ruins of Edenbar. Edenbar is a long-lost kingdom renowned for its technology and for its mysterious demise. In these ruins, he meets Elsa, a mysterious woman he needs to protect, hence the game's name. Side note, but having recently finished Growlins A Wafer of Time, it's pretty clear they copied Careersoft's homework with this premise. This is literally the exact same premise, right down to escorting a character with an almost identical name through a dark area. Putting all that to one side, the gameplay loop is a bit more original. Players must strengthen Ren's weapons before exploring each ruin, and must create their own map as they explore fully 2.5D graphical ruins. The map making is kinda like the Edge Odyssey series in this regard, because you have to put down locations for chests and bosses. Moreover, Kazuki Yone, best known for Hakuoki, illustrated this game, bringing together a sense of familiarity for Otome game fans. SaGa Omae o Mamoru wasn't localised, which is surprising given the gameplay is more palatable for the average gamer outside of Japan. However, when you think about it a bit deeper, it kinda makes a bit more sense. The gameplay being so different to your usual Idea Factory game might have contributed to this, alongside Idea Factory tending not to localise all their gameplay titles at the time to begin with. Moreover, Idea Factory are notorious for having a lot of abandoned experimental brands. Omae Fort never saw more than a couple of games, which likely shut the door on a potential localization. Either way, if you're a fan of Otome games and yearn for something with some gameplay, or you like Metroidvanias and want to see what one targeted towards girls is like, SaGa Omae o Mamoru may be exactly what you're looking for. Square Enix is well known for remaking their games on Nintendo handhelds. These remakes include Final Fantasy 3 and 4 for the Nintendo DS. These are fully 3D adaptations of the Final Fantasy titles of the same name, but are known for their renowned difficulty, especially when compared to the originals. Although Square Enix since released Final Fantasy 3 and 4 in a more definitive form with the Pixel remasters on consoles and PC, Final Fantasy 3 and 4's 3D remakes still hold up today as alternative ways to experience these classic RPGs. If you're a fan of Final Fantasy, you may want to check these games out. So why did I talk about Final Fantasy games that you can easily get in English? Well, the same logic also applies to the next two games I'm discussing now, SaGa 2 Goddess of Destiny and SaGa 3 Rulers of Time and Space. These two RPGs were originally released in the West on the Game Boy as Final Fantasy Legend 2 and 3 respectively. Rakjin developed these remakes on the DS, and they also worked on Final Fantasy Explorers on the 3DS, among many other titles. SaGa 2 Goddess of Destiny debuted on the DS in September 2009. This remake adds a new shell-shaded graphical art style, new character artwork by Gen Kobayashi, alongside Kenji Ito rearranging the game's soundtrack. Random encounters went out the window, and in their place became a minimap and refinements to the Musei's Garden system. SaGa 2 is widely considered the best game in the SaGa series, and this remake is seen as a good alternative version. Back in 2009, it was also the most definitive release. As for SaGa 3, this remake came out in January 2011, making it a very late Nintendo DS release. The gameplay here differs from SaGa 2, as is every SaGa game. Only 4 playable characters are usable at any one time out of 8 total, but you can recruit the 8 possible party members in any order you wish and experience their stories. There is a new fast forward mode on top of the previously mentioned improvements from SaGa 2's remake, and also local multiplayer with another player, which is really wild to see in a DS remake of a game like this. Now, SaGa historically has been pretty niche, so Square Enix passing on localising these remakes doesn't really need any further explanation, but the fan translations do need explanation. Crimson Nocturnal published a full fan translation for SaGa 2, with the final update for this patch coming out way back in 2011. As for SaGa 3, Kane and East and West, yeah they use their real names, handled SaGa 3's English patch, and released that in 2013. However, as I touched on earlier, Square Enix have superseded these patches with their own official releases. Square Enix later officially localised Romancing Saga 2 and 3 based on mobile ports, alongside a full 2024 remake of Romancing Saga 2. Subtitled Revenge of the Seven, Romancing Saga 2's remake is now the best entry point for new players to the Saga series because of its more accessible design. On the other hand, Romancing Saga 3 lacks a full remake, but Square Enix's remaster on modern platforms is the best way to experience this game as of 2025. But if you are a more hardcore Saga fan or even a JRPG fan, you may wish to check out these versions of Saga as well. The final game in this video is one of the most famous Japanese exclusive Nintendo DS titles ever made, Love Plus. If you know of Love Plus, you may have read about the story of a Japanese man who married a character from a Nintendo DS game in Guam. Yep, this is the title that girl, Nene and Nagasaki, this guy's so-called wife, starred in. Developed by Konami, who also worked on the Toki Memo series, Love Plus has you play the role of a second-year high school student. In the manga, he's known as Eikara Wataru, so I'll use that name here to avoid confusion, but you can change it in-game. You experience Wataru's daily life as he starts a new life at Tawano High School. He juggles his responsibilities at school and at work and at his family's restaurant, all while trying to win over the girl of his dreams. There are 3 waifus you can choose from: Manaka Takana, Rinko Kabayawaka, I butchered that, I'm sorry, and the waifu that the guy married, Nene and Nagasaki. Love Plus was a huge critical and commercial success in Japan upon its original September 2009 release. Much of this was because the characters look and sound surprisingly realistic on the Nintendo DS, effectively making Love Plus a technical marvel. Moreover, Love Plus served a historically overlooked market, dating sims on Nintendo consoles, something that only really began to get addressed on the Nintendo Switch. Konami immediately greenlit an enhanced port, Love Plus Plus, for a June 2010 release. This version made the original Love Plus obsolete for Japanese players, adding field trips, fitness modes, sick days, capsule toys, a cameo from fellow Konami franchise Tyson Puzzle Dharma, alongside more easily bypassable anti-piracy measures. Love Plus Plus came to iOS 2 under the name Love Plus I, and another updated release for iOS and Android in April 2013 under the name Love Plus Collection. This version added a new heroine, Akira Yukino. Otome game modder JG Jewel released the English patch for Love Plus, the original version, not Love Plus Plus, in July 2012. She stated at the time she had no plans to translate Love Plus Plus, and she remained true to her word. In fact, after her last release of Stormlover Kai for the PSP in 2015, she hasn't worked on any more patches, and as of 2025, the only way you can experience Love Plus in English is via her translation of the original Love Plus release. As visual novels had yet to prove themselves as a market outside of Japan, Konami passing on Love Plus is pretty self-explanatory. The same applies to the Nintendo 3DS sequel. Yep, this game got a sequel, creatively named New Love Plus, in February 2012, and an enhanced port of that sequel, even more creatively named New Love Plus Plus, in March 2014 for the same platform. Try saying that 4 times fast. And that's going to do it for today's video. Have you played any of the games mentioned in this video? Are there any other fan translations you recommend? I'm planning to do more parts of this and other platforms, so please let me know in the comments down below, and of course, subscribe. Like, comment, algorithm boosting stuff, consider becoming a channel member if you can afford to and want to do so. Anything else that you can do to show love on these videos, which have been a huge success by the way, thank you so much. See you next time. Have a lovely day. Bye bye.